Well, coming up, the best of the past year, including a war hero taking a P-51 Mustang ride, a GI pilot strapping in with the Thunderbirds, and learning to fly a P-40 Warhawk.
Plus, flying to fight fires, a new airplane takes the skies, and we get a little bit extra.
Heading home to the desert, van life with your airplane in tow, plus all the news headlines from the year that was. AOPA Live This Week, the Director's Cut 2019 begins in just a moment.
There are many important things to consider before purchasing an aircraft. Let the experts at Aerospace Reports help guide you through the process. We combine expert knowledge with our long-standing commitment to personalized customer service to perfect your transaction. Learn more at aerospacereports.com.
Well, it's that time of year again. We take a look back on many of our favorite stories from 2019, and we're glad you're with us on the Director's Cut. I'm Warren Morningstar alongside with Paul Harrop and Josh Cochran.
This is our chance to show off some of the stories we felt were especially good this year. We hope to share with you some of your favorites and some you may have missed.
Now, we're a small crew, but we do what we can to tell the stories of general aviation. And we're sincerely thankful to you, our loyal viewers, for keeping us going for yet another great year.
Well, let's launch right into it. I can't think of a better place to start than with a scenic seaplane flight with the reality show Celebrity. Dave Hirschman brings us that story.
The tall, lanky pilot looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't quite place him. He was practicing for a check ride at Adventure Seaplanes in Central Florida, and someone mentioned that he was on a reality TV show. That's when I remembered a Netflix series called Life Below Zero, in which Eric and his family talk about life in a remote corner of Alaska.
The show has a bigger following in the lower 48, and the show also is broadcasted internationally. So when my wife and I travel internationally, we actually get recognized in Europe, and it's a little bit of a confusing thing to have happen to you. It has been good for business. I'm not proud of the work that came out of it. I wasn't well suited to it in temperament. I'm more of a private person than I guess I realized. And my career as a potential bank robber has most certainly been ruined because we can't go anywhere without people approaching us.
Eric and his wife Martha own and operate the Tulare Creek Lodge in Iliamna, Alaska, a hunting, fishing, and wildlife photography destination, and he flies a Super Cub there.
My background's in wildlife biology, that's my education, and I'm fascinated by animals, and I love to observe animals from the air, and it really gives you a real concept of the spatial orientation of the land and the different terrain and habitats, and just what those animals do seasonally, how they move about. And it's a pretty incredible thing to get to see a large herd of caribou from the air, or to see spawning sockeye salmon in a stream from the air. It's just the whole gamut. I've lived in Alaska for my entire adult life, and there are no roads in the part of Alaska where we live, so it's a necessity to fly. It's a place of rugged and violent beauty. Some of these fellows who I've been fortunate enough to work with and fly with in Alaska, they're operating routinely, off 300-foot Tundra tires with a heavily loaded airplane. And if you're going to do what those guys do for a living, you better have your act together. I am only interested in Super Cubs. There's many different working airplanes in Alaska: Beavers, 185s, 180s. Well, I'm not that smart. So those other airplanes, they go kind of fast, and I need to be going slow enough that I can think quick enough to do what needs to be done.
I took Eric flying an AOPA President Mark Baker's Super Cub to show him what to expect when he puts his own airplane on floats.
I met these big-time guys, and they I don't know why I must have tricked them, but they offered to let me fly an airplane that was worth more than my life. The airplane is disgustingly cherry. I wasn't really sure what to make of that. It looks pretty different than my Super Cub at home. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I've really enjoyed it, and I had to resist sending a text message back home saying something to the effect of that I never wanted to fly on wheels again.
Well, Well, you know, we try to pick scenic locations for our AOPA fly-ins, and this year's no different. Our fly-in to Livermore, California took many pilots within easy reach of the San Francisco Bay, so Josh shows us how pretty it is to take a flying bay tour.
Today I'm flying with local Livermore pilot Brad Allard in the Cessna 182 owned by Attitude Aviation.
Yeah, I'm a corporate pilot, so I primarily fly turboprops here in the Bay Area for a lot of our clients.
We're taking off out of Livermore Airport for a scenic tour of the Bay Area. This flight requires navigating a lot of complex airspace, but the reward is an amazing view of the famous landmarks around San Francisco.
Bridge, good afternoon. Cessna 374 Tango Charlie, just off of Livermore, looking for the Bay Tour, beginning at Dunbar, making our way around if you can do that today. The big thing with doing these Bay Tours like this is you got to communicate to ATC. As long as you communicate, generally they have no problem working you in. As soon as there's any hesitation that you don't know kind of what you're doing or you're not able to communicate what you're doing, then they won't grant you this Bay Tour.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I love this kind of flying.
Yeah, this kind of flying is what general aviation really is all about.
Yeah, freedom. We got the Ritz coming up here. This is a big thing for people on the West Coast.
After we fly past the Ritz-Carlton, we take in the beautiful views of the Rocky Coast and cruise along next to Half Moon Bay Airport.
Cool airport.
Really is. You can camp there for free. It's all set up for like fire pits and picnic tables.
Have you landed there much?
Oh yeah, my wife and I come over here a lot for dinner. Great place to pop in and out of. There's so many great restaurants right downtown. If you want something fancy, you just jump in an Uber and go down to the Ritz-Carlton.
After Half Moon Bay, we head toward the Golden Gate Bridge.
It still blows my mind just how close you can get to the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, it's really neat.
And near the Golden Gate, we circle another San Francisco attraction, Alcatraz. After Alcatraz, we overfly the city, taking in the incredible views.
November 4 Tango Charlie, you done with the tour?
We're done, and everyone head back to Livermore.
A special thanks to Attitude Aviation for giving us this glimpse of all the incredible flying around Livermore. Josh Cochran, AOPA Live.
Hey, are you on Instagram? Follow us. We're at Fly with AOPA. I'm at Paul Harrop Live. And on Insta, you'll see a very popular hashtag van life. Sun-kissed millennials traveling the world in a micro RV. Well, we found one couple that's doing it and found a way to bring their airplane along with them. Ian Twombly has the story.
Who says a slow airplane, like this Kit Fox, can't take you where you want to go? Florida couple Bob and Dusty Jones found the ideal way to go wherever they want and take their airplane with them.
We travel in this maybe sometimes up to 3 months a year or more.
Wow.
But 3 months at a shot is about as long as we've done it. And we tow our Kit Fox airplane behind us in a little
Enclosed trailer.
Great.
And consequently, we are very fortunate. We're able to travel all over the country and stop at little airports, roll the plane out, and have a hoot and a half, and then roll it back in when we're done and stay in our lovely spacious accommodations here.
The arrangement gives the couple the ultimate freedom, sleeping wherever they can find a spot.
I am an antique diamond wearing, Porsche driving corporate
She's
CEO.
not putting the kind of...
Sleeping in a Walmart. Frequently.
Because of that pilot husband of hers.
Because of that pilot husband of mine.
Bob has his system down to a science for securely storing, loading, and unloading the airplane, whether the couple is on the road or at their home in Marathon Key.
And one of the really neat things about this particular location is I can take baby plane out of its little trailer in through the back gate, and I can be there in 10 minutes. Now I've called flight service on the way, fold wings, and I'm ready to go. So that really works out well for us.
The Keys are an ideal place to fly.
Dry Tortugas, Fort Jefferson, it's flown over all of those. Wonderful you see fabulous boats and beautiful houses, and so it's low and slow, fun touring little baby airplane. And if it's calm enough and pretty enough, he'll be up every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning and flying around. If it's calm enough and pretty enough, I like the sunset, view, and we've both enjoyed that extremely much.
The Kid Fox, along with the trailer setup, gives this pilot couple the ultimate access to the skies, whether the airport is down the street or across the country. Ian Twombly, AOPA Live.
Well, if your travels take you through Texas, you'll probably see some reference to King Ranch. The iconic brand is synonymous with Lone Star culture, so it's fitting that a big airplane would make a big statement with the brand. Tom Horn shows us the King Ranch King Air.
There are some 6,000 King Airs out there. Some, like the King Air 350ER, are even used in military or air ambulance missions. Now, there's a swanky new version of the 350i, one with an interior that could be the most stylish of any turboprop twin. It's called the King Ranch 350i, and to understand the background, you have to know that the King Ranch in Texas, founded in 1853 by a Captain Richard King, is an 850,000-acre ranch, the largest in the U.S. It started out as a cattle ranch, but then added a line of branded merchandise, leather goods, and even Ford F-150 pickup interiors. Now, it's the 350i that has the King Ranch treatment. It's a $125,000 option. We're talking luxury, folks. Those seats are made of Kingsville antique affect leather. The headliner, faux ostrich. The side panels, faux crocodile leather. There's the King Ranch logo in text, and its brand, literally, is on the aft bulkhead, winglets, and on the paint job. Of course, the panel isn't any slouch either. It has the Rockwell Collins ProLine Fusion Touch Avionics Suite. I went out to Textron in Wichita to fly the first of the King Ranch 350i's and met senior demo pilot Mark Moeller, who'd be showing me the ropes. Here he fills us in on the Fusion and just some of its features.
I'll say this about the ProLine Fusion. To me, it's really big is you have the option with the airplane of either touching the displays, the PFDs, the MFDs for interaction, or you can use the cursor control panel that's down next to the MKP panel and interact just by sitting in your seat and laying your hand down by it in the pedestal. Now, one thing that the Collins Fusion has now is the multi-scan weather radar we have on the King Air. It's truly automated. The pilot just sets a range and the tilt is controlled automatically. It suppresses ground returns. So they don't have to concentrate on, well, what tilt am I going to set, what range? Now I can just see the weather and I can go around it or avoid it.
Then comes my chance to fly. It's line up, see the center line on the PFD's synthetic vision, power up, and go. Soon comes V1, rotate, right up, pitch up, positive rate, and gear up. At altitude, we did the basic maneuvers like steep turns and slow flight. As you might expect from an airplane with a max takeoff weight of 15,000 pounds, controls are a tad heavy. Then we power the left engine back to see the single engine climb rate. After vectors back to the Dwight D. Eisenhower Airport, we did several touch and goes and stop and goes. You use 120 knots down final, but to slow down initially, you have to pull the power back to 25% torque. Then it's slowly power back for 100 knots on short final, then walk the power levers back some more until you're just a few feet off the runway and try to land it with minimal flare. Next comes reverse thrust and a taxi back to the Textron hangar. They say that the real customer in an airplane like this is the person sitting in the boss's seat. The boss, well, everybody in the cabin, should be very happy with the King Ranch interior and paint job. But flying any Fusion-equipped 350i is just as big a treat for the front seaters too. Tom Horn, AOPA Live.
Young people are the future of aviation. This year we caught up with an 18-year-old who flew around the world in the family Piper. David Toulis introduces us to Mason Andrews.
18-year-old Mason Andrews set out to accomplish something truly amazing. Become the youngest person to fly around the world in a single-engine airplane. And he did it for a cause that he cares deeply about, Med Camps of Louisiana.
It's a special needs summer camp that's completely free of charge to the families who use it. So during the course of the trip, we were able to raise over $33,000, and even more money has rolled in since I got back from the trip, inspired by the trip. So it's something that I'm really proud of being able to do.
Mason flew a Piper Lance owned by his family.
The aircraft's named the Spirit of Louisiana, which is sort of a callback to Charles Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis, but also a tribute to my state of Louisiana.
The journey took 76 days, and Mason encountered several challenges along the way. On one leg, Mason was surprised by a military jet near Taiwan.
I had entered the Taiwan flight information region and was still very near the storm cell that I was skirting towards the west side, when I saw an F-16 in about a 80-degree bank angle about a mile in front of me. And then a few minutes later, it came up off my left wing, about 5 feet wing to wing. And it was a Taiwanese F-16 that had intercepted me and wanted me to fly back into Japanese airspace. So it stayed with me as I skirted around the storm and ultimately was able to re-enter Naha control and start relaying with them again, and they began to understand my situation.
And that wasn't the only challenge that Mason faced on the trip. On his leg to the Philippines, he encountered an unexpected line of thunderstorms that closed most of the airports around his destination.
So I called Manila Center and I said, Lance 78 Charlie requesting diversion to Subic Bay International Airport. They came back and they said Subic Bay is closed. I called back and I said 78 Charlie declaring an emergency, we're landing at Subic Bay. So they came back and they said the lights aren't on, there's no one at the airport, there's no way to land. I said we're proceeding to Subic Bay. I said, I wasn't demanding, but at the same time I needed their help, so I asked them to get somebody out to the airport to turn the lights on. And I was within a mile at 200 feet when the lights came on.
The experience taught Mason valuable lessons that he now shares with other pilots.
If you have an emergency, do what you need to do to get the airplane on the ground safely. Don't worry about what air traffic control wants you to do. Obviously, air traffic control is usually looking out for your best interest. But if you have to deviate from any of the rules, in the FARs, as 91.3 says, deviate from them as much as you need to enhance the safety of your flight.
Mason told us that he hopes his journey will help grow the aviation community.
The more people learn about these types of things, the more people get inspired to do them, just like I was. That's really all we can hope for, is the next generation of people coming up and learning to fly and becoming airline pilots or military pilots. I mean, we need all of them right now.
This is David Toulis, AOPA Live.
Well, more to come as our highlight reel rolls on, like flying in a P-40.
And a P-51, and an extra 330, and an F-16. We fly all the things.
And Paul's going to party in the desert and a runway to space. AOPA Live this week, the Director's Cut 2019 continues in a moment.
Purchasing your own aircraft is an exciting experience. AOPA Finance simplifies the process, saving you money with lower interest rates and hassle-free loans, so you get into your new aircraft sooner. AOPA Finance, the right approach to buying an aircraft.
Welcome back. We're looking over the best AOPA Live videos from 2019. It's not every day that Light GA sees a new clean sheet design make it to the market. Sarah Diener shows us the Texas Colt.
It's a new breed of LSA. The Texas Aircraft Colt is an aluminum trainer manufactured in Hondo, Texas. Metal construction, side-by-side seating, and yokes give the factory-built light sport aircraft a familiar feel to it, but this aircraft is all new. The Colt is the first offering from Texas Aircraft Manufacturing, which set up shop at the South Texas Regional Airport earlier this year. Employees at the Hondo facility do everything from riveting wings to stitching upholstery, laying up composites, and painting. The Colt is made in the United States, but it has a Brazilian pedigree that goes back more than 20 years. Designer Caio Jordão is responsible for the Empire Conquest 180 and several other experimental aircraft in Brazil. Mateus Grande is co-founder of Texas Aircraft and CEO of its sister company TA Brazil. He said Hondo, Texas offered the perfect setting for manufacturing of the Colt.
And we decided to do this project in Texas, here in Hondo, for some reasons. We wanted to be part of a nice community, a community that will welcome us. Also, Hondo Airfield offers 4 big runways and a very calm airspace, among with other factors as a good workforce, former militaries that we are able to hire. From the beginning, we wanted to do an aircraft that would stand out in the market, an aircraft with a chromoly survival cell, a parachute ballistic system, all metal, solid rivets, high wing semi-cantilever with a yoke controller. The engine cowling, the fairings, the vents, they're made of carbon composite materials. We were able to bring a very traditional, known methodology of construction to a very modern, sleek design.
Texas Aircraft is still working toward ASTM certification for the light sport airplane, which will be offered with 2 options. At $156,000, the S model is the basic flight training model. The premium model, the SL, includes a ballistic parachute, 2-axis autopilot with level button, and custom paint for $167,000. The Colt comes with a 100 horsepower Rotax 912 ULS engine, 3-blade sterno propeller, and free castering nose wheel. In the air, its handling is smooth and predictable. It stalls at 38 knots indicated with 30 degrees of flaps and 44 knots clean. As projected demand for professional pilots skyrockets, Texas Aircraft sees flight schools as the primary market for the Colt. As the Colt enters the home stretch of flight testing, Texas Aircraft officials are champing at the bit to start deliveries. They'll exhibit the Colt at EAA AirVenture in Oshkosh, and once they achieve certification for the Colt, it's off to the races. Sarah Diener, AOPA Live.
We're always honored when we get to tell the stories of America's World War II aviators, but Paul Harrop shows us that World War II fighter pilot Jack Hallett's story is still being written.
Jack Hallett is a hero. Don't try telling him that, but his record speaks for itself. He was 21 when Pearl Harbor was attacked. The next day, he signed up with the U.S. Army Air Corps, flying combat missions in many different fighters: P-38s, P-39s, P-40s, P-47s, just about every fighter we had. Just about. Jack always wanted to fly the P-51 Mustang. In the war, he thought it would get him favor with the ladies, not that he needed any help. But in his late 90s, the Mustang still eluded him, until the Collings Foundation got word of this fighter pilot with a bucket list.
All right, Jack, here we go. I'm ready.
As Collings Foundation pilot Fred Bauer makes TF-51D Mustang Toulouse knots roar to life from the runway in Leesburg, Florida, Jack is all grins. This moment he's waited a lifetime for does not disappoint. They form up with another airplane to get some air-to-air shots, and Jack's grin steals the show.
From here I can see the smile of the guy in the back. His smile is so big. Yeah, he is.
And it gets even bigger as this combat flyboy takes the stick of his dream machine.
Go ahead, fly the airplane around a little bit. Okay. All right, you have the airplane. What do I need for airspeed? For rolls, right around 250 like this. For loop, we're going to need a lot more. So try a couple rolls, and then we'll settle for a loop. You're there, so bring your nose up about 20 degrees. A little bit more. All right, now stop and roll. There you go. Keep that aileron in so the wings are level. Nice. Wow. All right, turn me back around that way.
They roll and loop together in the Florida sky.
When you get to the vertical, you got to slow it down a little bit. And right here, I got to put a little bit of a pull again.
Jack would go on to earn the rank of Major and be awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross.
It's been so long.
All these decades later, he's still got it, and flying still has him. Greeted with the hero's welcome in New Smyrna Beach, like his passion for these old warbirds, his smile will not soon fade.
This has been more fun, Fred. Good.
Paul Harrop, AOPA Live.
There are many incredible fighters from World War II. The Mustang may get much of the glory, but Barry Schiff shows us the P-40 Warhawk is an American dream machine.
Flying Tigers, the famous American volunteer group, wing their way across China for the last time as volunteers. For 8 months, these Chinese signs have been the only insignia of the most spectacular and efficient fighting force in aviation history.
4 years before Pearl Harbor, Japan invaded China, part of its plan to take over Asia and the Pacific. Unable to defend itself, China sought help from America. Believing that we would eventually be drawn into this conflict, President Roosevelt allowed the sale of 100 Curtiss P-40s to China. He also allowed volunteer pilots to be recruited from the Air Corps and sent to China. Stories of their success against Japan came early in the war, a time when there wasn't much else for America to celebrate. These heroic pilots were the Flying Tigers. This beautifully restored Curtiss P-40 Warhawk has 2 cockpits, each with fully functioning dual controls. So if you're interested in getting some dual, or perhaps a type rating, in this World War II fighter, just contact Warbird Adventures in Kissimmee, Florida, and connect with its instructor, Tom Richard.
Like any other kid, my first plastic model was a P-40 Warhawk with the iconic shark's mouth, which is probably one of the most renowned symbols of World War II. 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to finally start flying one. As soon as I got in it, I realized that this airplane fits. It is the airplane that was built for me and my experience and what I want to do in aviation. All fighters are fantastic aircraft. They all have their plus and minuses, and obviously there's no best compromise. My personal preference is the P-40. The P-40 is not my favorite airplane because I happen to have one. I have one because it's my favorite airplane. Just an absolute delight to fly, incredibly charming, and the romance of the P-40 just can't be beat. People ask me all the time what the difference between the P-40 and the P-51 is. And I understand the comparison, being a V-12 powered fighter or similar size and shape. So I get it. And I've flown a lot of Mustangs. I do air shows in Mustangs. I've raced Mustangs in Reno. I love the airplane. Great aircraft. With that, the P-40, below 10,000 feet and below 250 miles an hour, will outperform the Mustang in pretty much every single regard. It'll out-accelerate, out-climb, out-turn, out-roll, and even out-dive the Mustang on that lower performance operating envelope. 90% of the time in the airshow industry and teaching what we do today, we spend below those two numbers. With that, the P-40, in my opinion, merely opinion, is way more fun to fly. Living the American dream is something I've come to realize I'm actually doing. This aircraft showed up on my doorstep last year, and it's the culmination of what I've been trying to do my whole life is teaching fighters. The perfect name for the airplane is American Dream. My American dream, I'm being able to share this aircraft with everybody else that I run into in life. It's just an amazing experience, having the opportunity to merely live in the greatest country in the world and pursue what you want to do. I wake up every day jealous of myself. I just cannot believe what I'm doing.
Really easily. So let's give that a try. Let's yell clear. Okay. Clear!
The P-40 has much more of a nose-high attitude on the ground than a P-51. S-turning while taxiing is an absolute must. Power for takeoff will be 45 inches and 3,000 RPM. Begin rolling with full right stick to counter torque. Let the tail come up a bit, lift off at 120, climb at 150. Now this is a hoot. Like other single-engine, high-horsepower warbirds, virtually every change in power and airspeed requires a change in trim. The P-40 is lighter on the controls than a P-51, especially in pitch, making this airplane a joy to fly, much more nimble than I had expected. On base leg at about 135, crank open the canopy. Check gear down. Gradually reduce to 110 on short final, and prepare for a three-point landing. And keep working those rudder pedals after touchdown. Oh man, now this is fun. Barry Schiff, AOPA Live.
Of course, the legacy of American fighters continues today. It might be on best display with the United States Air Force's premier jet team. Dave Hirschman straps into a Viper with the Thunderbirds.
Alrighty, here we go. Throttles. This is nice.
Altitude.
Tell your friends. Oh, here comes the cheese. That doesn't seem right.
I've only got two goals for this flight. Stay conscious and don't hurl. Flying with the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds is the thrill of a lifetime for a GA pilot like me, and I don't want to sleep through any of it. There are hours of preparation getting ready for this backseat ride in an F-16, and I get some good advice on how to resist up to 9 Gs and keep this morning's Egg McMuffin where it belongs.
So in the end, if you're gonna barf, just do it. Call it good. You wouldn't be the first, you won't be the last.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have on your G suit, there's an elastic strap. Pro tip here. So take those one of those bags out if you're at all worried, like when you're taxiing or just hanging out waiting, doing nothing in the jet. And they're like those produce bags at the grocery store that you can never figure out which end is the open one. So figure that out.
Thunderbird Flight Surgeon Noel Calls says staying hydrated is key, and he coaches me through breathing and straining techniques that get a little noisy.
Jeez. All right, I'm punching everything. Big barrel chest.
All right, so what we're going to do now is go ahead and get you looking similar like a pilot. So I have your flight suit right here. Okay. Boots.
Staff Sergeant Kyle Bodie fits me with a flight suit, helmet, oxygen mask, and this strange garment, a G-suit that squeezes like a python.
Last 4 of your social.
I'm more than willing to sign my life away. Then I meet Thunderbird number 8, call sign Flack.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Yeah. Read about you on the website.
This flight is to hopefully give you an idea of not just the Thunderbird mission, but kind of demonstrate a little bit of the pride, professionalism, and precision that the entire Air Force puts into their daily lives.
My whole interest is this is the only time I'm ever going to be in an F-16, and it's like I want to see as much of the F-16 envelope as I possibly can.
Great.
And if I can stay conscious the whole time, that'll be a bonus.
It's always great when we get to fly folks that have a flying background, right? So you can kind of appreciate it a little bit more. Also, it makes it a little bit more, I guess, easier because I'm like not as scared of you passing out or puking.
Well, that's a vote of confidence. Finally, we walk out to the airplane and lace up the G-suit.
I don't know what I ever did to get so lucky, but I am thrilled to be here.
After our nearly vertical climb to 12,000 feet, we fly south to a restricted area.
So, let's go ahead and execute the Knife Edge Pass. Here we go. Smoke on ready now, and Knife Edge.
Flack demonstrates some aerobatic maneuvers.
All right, 8-point roll coming up. Ready for that?
Ready.
All right, smoke on ready now, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We did it. Got through all 8, and I didn't lose count.
Including a max G turn.
I'm going to light the afterburner, roll into bank, and we're going to start smoothly applying backstick pressure. We're going to get up to about 7.5 Gs. Things are going good. I'm going to keep pulling until we get to 9. So, you ready for that?
Ready.
Bump up here. Here comes G.
It feels like an elephant is sitting on my chest, an anaconda is squeezing my legs, and I'm looking through a soda straw. But the pain tells me I'm still awake.
That's a good scream.
David, 9.1 Gs. How you feeling?
Excellent.
Dude, that was awesome.
This flight is a dream come true.
Bingo. Bingo.
Low on fuel, we fly back to Oceana. Dave Hirschman, AOPA Live. Barf bags empty.
So that was, one heck of a story to be on. I was the videographer producer, although
lucky.
Yeah, well, but I didn't get to ride in the F-16.
Not so lucky.
But Hirschman was just out of his mind.
I can imagine, man. What a cool thing. I think it's everybody's dream to go back in time and become a fighter pilot.
And the other interesting thing about that is, what the lead F-16 uses for navigation?
Oh no.
4-flight and a Sentry.
Well, I saw
You saw it
box
on
there.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Because it's a better moving map than what they have in the avionics in the F-16.
Sure, a little cheaper too, for sure.
That's for sure. Well, when fires break out in California, they tend to spread quickly. Aerial attack is the only way to fight back. Josh takes us to visit CAL FIRE and see the brave pilots who work to save life and property.
It's a fight for lives and property, using the weapons of water and retardant. The battle is against the ever-growing enemy of forest fires. In California, the CAL FIRE Aviation program is essential for stopping fires quickly before they grow out of control. CAL FIRE has dozens of aircraft deployed across the state for a fast response every time a fire starts.
Our goal is to have an aircraft on any fire in California within 20 minutes during fire season. And by doing that, we can get out there early and get the fires knocked down or at least slowed down and give time in those more remote areas for fire crews to get there.
The fires are fought using former military aircraft. Up above the fire, the OV-10 Bronco commands the scene, directing aircraft and ground resources to contain the blaze. Down below, the S-2T drops retardant on the fire, while the UH-1H Super Huey helicopters deliver firefighters and dump water on the scene.
They're mission aircraft that were designed to do similar type of work that we're doing right now.
It takes a dedicated team to keep these aircraft in ideal flying condition. Much of this maintenance occurs at CAL FIRE's Aviation Management Unit in McClellan Park, California.
At McClellan, we have a cadre of about 90 maintenance technicians that do a variety of work, from sheet metal to painting to engine specialists to structures folks.
McClellan also hosts training for the tanker pilots. Jimmy Ferreira is a flight instructor and flies an S-2T during the flying season.
The most challenging part about this job is you're flying an airplane that's at gross weight on high density altitude, hot conditions, and you just learn to, throughout our training, you're just taught to have the airplane as basically part of your body. There's a lot of stick and rudder skills required for this type of job. The nice thing about this is there's no autopilots on these airplanes. You hand fly it all the time, and it's a fun job. A lot of the people that work here, it's probably 75 to 80% of our pilots own their own airplanes because they have a passion for flying, and there's nothing more that I'm more passionate about than this job here.
Jimmy sees the S-2T tanker as a good tool for the mission.
What the best part is they have 1,650 horsepower per engine, and when you're flying around the fire environment, you could bring them right back to flight idle, set your flaps, and you can really follow the contour of a lot of terrains throughout this state. And we drop at 125 knots and 150 feet, and you could just come right on down mountainside at 125 knots, level off, drop, and when you climb out, you have gobs of power on this thing. It'll climb out, empty 3,000 feet a minute.
For the CAL FIRE mechanics and pilots, it's all about using aviation to make a difference.
When that call comes off, we're ready to go, and you go to bed at night knowing that you saved someone's property, maybe saved house, saved someone's life, and that's what keeps us coming back doing this job.
Josh Cochran, AOPA Live.
Well, it's not all fun and games each year. As you know, we cover the news affecting general aviation on this program.
And 2019 saw a number of big stories, and AOPA was on top of each of them.
Here's Tom Haynes with a look back at the stories that made headlines this year.
Thanks, guys. Topping the 2019 headlines, AOPA turned 80 this year. Founded in 1939 at Wings Field in Philadelphia, we remain the world's largest, most influential aviation organization. And we marked the 8 decades by releasing the Freedom to Fly coffee table book. There are also special events at our AOPA Homecoming Fly-In in Frederick, Maryland back in May. At the Homecoming Fly-In was the D-Day Squadron on their way to Normandy. This year marked 75 years since the invasion and led to the end of World War II. A number of C-47s flew over to remember the invasion. The flight, led by That's All Brother, the C-47 that led the original invasion decades ago. The 99s turned 90. The iconic women's aviation group has been around since being formed on Long Island back in 1929. Amelia Earhart served as the group's first president. And we had a big step forward for pilots with diabetes. The FAA announced they would start issuing special issuance second and first class medical certificates for diabetic pilots. AOPA had been pushing for that for many years. And this year, the number of pilots flying under basic med reached more than 52,000. AOPA succeeded in getting that reform passed a couple of years ago. And a new boss at the FAA this year, Steve Dixon, taking the helm in August. He comes from Delta Airlines and had previously served as a fighter pilot in the Air Force. AOPA continues to stay on top of egregious FBO fees. We've had a number of wins this year and continue fighting for fair access to our nation's aviation infrastructure. General Aviation leapt into action to serve after Hurricane Dorian ravaged the northern Bahamas. AOPA worked with relief organizations and the Bahamian officials to allow GA to bring much needed relief to the islands. Groups like Operation Airdrop, Aerobridge, and others organized GA aircraft and owners to bring aid in that time of crisis. Well, the Red Bull Air Race called it quits this year. The series stopping mid-season without an American date. And AOPA Ambassador Michael Goulian was a competitor. He had been making great strides in advancing in the ranks. And speaking of things going away, the U.S. Sport Aviation Expo in Sebring, Florida called it quits. The light sport show folding after 15 years. the DeLand Sport Aviation Showcase taking much of the traffic that used to flock down to Sebring. And a blip in the lights at Mooney International. Company announcing a furlough in November that was lifted in early December. Still working to get more information about what exactly it means for that company. A new clean sheet airplane from Gulfstream, the G700, announced at NBAA in Las Vegas to much fanfare. The airplane claims to be the new flagship of the business aviation fleet. A massive leap forward in technology, the Garmin AutoLand system unveiled this fall. At the touch of a button, the system takes over the airplane. It makes radio calls, plans a flight to the nearest suitable airport, factoring in terrain, weather, other items. It flies an approach, extends the gear, lands the airplane, and brings it to a stop, all without passengers having to do a thing. It's currently offered in Piper M600s and the Cirrus SF-50 Vision jets. In September, a landmark crash. Draco was a highly modified Wilga that had inspired countless people to take an interest in backcountry and STOL flying. Mike Patey created the turbine airplane. He tried to take off from Reno's Stead Airport in extreme wind conditions, and the airplane skidded into a ground loop. Nobody hurt in the crash. Patey says he'll build a new version of Draco, even bigger and better. AOPA makes dreams come true for an 80-year-old student pilot, Wade Sheely of South Carolina, winning our sweepstakes Super Cub back in July. Wade got the fully refurbished Super Cub on amphibious floats. Also comes with Tundra tires and skis, which he probably won't need in North Carolina. The next sweepstakes airplane could be yours. We're in the process of fixing up this Vans RV-10 for some lucky winner. And you'll see that airplane in person many times this coming year, especially if you come to the 2020 AOPA fly-ins. May 29 and 30, we'll be in San Marcos, Texas, co-located with a music and car festival. Join us for Go Wheels Up Texas, featuring the AOPA fly-in. Then, June 19 and 20, head to the west. We'll be in Casper, Wyoming. We're in good company that weekend with the National Collegiate Rodeo Finals, so bring your cowboy hat. And then in September, meet us in Rochester, New York in the fall on the 11th and 12th. You're just a stone's throw from Niagara Falls and other great destinations. Hope to see you there. Well, that's the headlines and that made the news this year. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Tom. 2019 was a pretty monumental year in aviation, but I'm looking forward to what the future may hold. It's fairly certain that commercial passenger travel to space is going to be a thing over the next few years, and Julie Summers-Walker shows us that the infrastructure for those flights is already in place. Take your protein pill and put your helmet on. We're going to Spaceport America.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
The final frontier. We've always wanted to go to space, to visit the moon, to put man's footprint in outer space. Government-funded space travel has been usurped by commercial ventures, such as Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic, whose Spaceship One vaulted into space and won the X Prize in 2004. Virgin Galactic continues to push the boundaries of space travel and is now on track to put passengers into space. The first purpose-built airport for space travel is Spaceport America. Its massive 3-story hangar will house Virgin Galactic spacecraft in the vast, empty landscape of the New Mexican desert. The closest town is the quiet settlement of Truth or Consequences, located along the Rio Grande. Once called Hot Springs, T or C, as the locals call it, gets its name from a 1950s radio show. The Spaceport America Visitor Center is located in a historic Adobe-style building in T or C. The Visitor Center is the starting point for a visit to Spaceport America. The Visitor Center shares Spaceport America's scientists and information with local groups, such as this visit from a children's summer library program. New Mexico invested $31 million towards this project, which it hopes will lead the state to a brighter future. A 12,000-foot runway and vertical launch pads are a part of Spaceport America's footprint in the desert.
Whether you're talking about automobiles, computers, or the internet, those are all transformative technologies. If you look around, Commercial space travel is going to be that next transformative technology that's going to affect our world and affect us as a species and in ways that we can't even imagine today. Our customers do vary quite a bit. We have flight customers and non-flight customers. Of course, our focus is our flight customers, whether that's those customers going up into just the upper atmospheres and trying to test out different airplane technologies, or is that our launching customers going all the way up into space? And of course, the big news is with Virgin Galactic being our major customer, getting ready to send humans up into space on a tourism business for the first time in human history.
Virgin Galactic is coming home to New Mexico, and it's coming home now.
Virgin Galactic is actually a customer of the state of New Mexico. Think of it almost like a tenant-landlord relationship. Well, the building that the state of New Mexico built for Virgin Galactic, we like to call it the Gateway to Space. And that building's about 130,000 square feet, has about 3 different stories on it. If you've looked around the news, you've seen how Virgin Galactic has developed their White Knight, or their carrier plane, and then they have their spaceship. That building can actually hold up to 2 White Knights and 5 spaceships in it, and it can have the full operations and full training for the future astronauts right there in the same building. Astronaut walkway means a lot of different things to various people. Of course, to those future astronauts, it's for their first journey into space. For myself, I like to look at it as a step towards a better future. The experiments that our customers come with us and the technology developments our customers come with are just making new ideas for a brighter future for tomorrow. So that walk, going up to the next step, is the next step forward for ourselves, and I'm really excited for it.
Learn more about Spaceport America in the October issue of AOPA Pilot. Julie Walker, AOPA Live.
Well, not quite so far out of this world, but it is a giant leap forward in technology, one that will have a ripple effect in the GA world for years to come. At the touch of a button, the airplane navigates to an airport and lands by itself. Tom Haynes shows us Garmin AutoLand.
It started out as a simple demo flight in Piper's new M600 SLS. Suddenly the pilot passes out. Okay, he's just faking it. I reach up and push the AutoLand button.
Emergency AutoLand activated. The Emergency AutoLand system is controlling the aircraft and will land at the safest nearby airport. Please remain calm. Avoid touching the flight controls, which may interfere with AutoLand. Your destination is shown on the bottom of the left and right displays. Your estimated time to landing is shown on the top of all 3 displays. Emergency AutoLand has already informed air traffic control of your situation.
It's done more than that.
So when you select that button, it is going to go through a slew of considerations as it relates to selecting that most optimal airport. It'll include your weather en route, the weather at the destination airport, terrain obstacles. It even has the ability to forecast weather. So if there's a line of storms approaching the airport and it thinks, or it's forecasting, that that line is going to be over the airport at your estimated time of arrival, it'll choose a different airport.
AutoLand will change the speed.
Did it change speeds? What speed were we doing, and did it go
It was about
faster or slower?
170, and now it's doing 200.
So it's hoofing back to get you to an airport quickly.
Yep. So and again, as it makes this turn, if it's now within the defined parameters of speed, altitude, or course, then we'll enter the holding pattern.
Okay. And what approach is this?
The RNAV 18 approach.
One turn around the hold to slow down, and
Your airplane has begun maneuvering into position for the final approach to landing. The Emergency AutoLand system is controlling all flight functions. You won't need to do anything. Ensure your seatbelt is tight.
AutoLand drops the gear, adds approach flaps, and
Wind 090 at 10.
So throttle's coming back. I've gone into the flare and decrab.
kicks out the crab just before touchdown. Steers back to the center line and then stops.
Wait for aircraft and propeller to stop before exiting the aircraft.
Through it all, AutoLand has kept the passengers informed.
When we first started, the system was pretty text-heavy and a lot of prompts and things that weren't all that intuitive. And since then, we've really made it more simple and really simplified what needs to be done, and really make it reassuring and soothing for the passengers.
AutoLand is Garmin's newest automated flight technology.
Building block technology is coming into play. Each time we got a little bit closer, we did things like emergency descent mode, ESP, then we had auto throttle, for example in the Citation 10 Plus.
you put all these things together and you realize, hey, the convergence of all these things have come together and allow us to do this function now.
AutoLand will be standard on the Piper M600 SLS. Soon it'll be available on the Cirrus Vision Jet. Both projects awaiting certification.
Complements the overall Cirrus safety systems just so well. If anything bad or anything mechanically fails with the airplane, we have the CAP system. If anything now happens to the pilot, you have the safe return Garmin AutoLand system that will bring the airplane to the ground.
Garmin intends to bring this new technology to a lot of different airplanes.
And there's ways you can scale this technology both up and down. It's a small single-engine airplane fixed gear, it should be there as well. So our job is to proliferate it.
And AutoLand has been more than a product for the 100 Garmin engineers, software developers, and pilots who've been working on this for the past 8 years.
It's very important to us to have tools to help get our passengers and everyone home safely, but also just that responsibility as a pilot when you're flying to make sure that your cargo, which is your friends and family, get home safely.
And I have to tell you guys, that is the most amazing thing. That AutoLand can bring the airplane down. It doesn't quite always capture centerline when it lands, but as soon as but as soon as nose wheel comes down, it navigates back to centerline.
Wow.
Rolls to a stop, gives the passengers instructions on how to get out of the airplane. This is phenomenal technology, and although it's really only on the Vision Jet and the Piper turboprop right now, I think a lot of this is going to migrate down to smaller GA.
For sure, it's super exciting. It was one of the toughest secrets I think any aviation journalist had to keep. We knew about this for a little bit before we could talk about it, and gee whiz, is that the coolest thing you've ever seen?
It really is. Well, we knew about it for months, but Garmin wanted to keep it secret until they got the certification.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what comes out of that in the long run too, with all the other technology.
Yep. Cessna 172 AutoLand, not too far away.
Well, some guys have all the luck. Earlier you saw Dave Hirschman ride with the Thunderbirds. Now he gets as close as you can to a fighter while still having a propeller. He straps into the Extra 330 SC.
The Extra 330 SC is tougher than any human. It's rated at plus or minus 10 Gs, and only a few of the world's most elite aerobatic competitors come close to using its full potential. So what happens when a taxi driver like me gets a once-in-a-lifetime chance to drive an Indy car? Well, it's not pretty. Things start out well enough with some big, graceful maneuvers.
That's going to start out with a barrel roll. Wow, that rudder is powerful.
And then things get dicey. My first attempt at a 4-point roll is a fiasco.
The roll is really weird. It's a heavy breakout force, but once it's broken out, it goes really fast. Let me try this again. It's going to do an aileron roll.
The SC rolls at more than 400 degrees per second, so the horizon goes around in a blur.
That is unlike anything I've built before, the aileron.
This airplane was designed for one purpose: winning aerobatic competitions. And that's something it does better than anything else. The German design has won 4 out of the last 5 world contests, including the last 3 in a row. The SC is a beautifully crafted carbon fiber dream machine that gives pilots 3-dimensional freedom. You've just got to stay conscious long enough to enjoy it. Thanks to Jeff Petrocelli of Long Island, New York, for the chance to fly this magnificent airplane. Dave Hirschman, AOPA Live.
Boy, that Dave gets all the cool flights.
He really does.
Dave does, but we have to say he is one heck of a pilot and flight instructor, so I guess it's appropriate that he does get all of them.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them.
Well, when we come back, taking a trip to Normandy to mark 75 years since D-Day.
Heading way out to Dead Cow.
And tracing our routes with never-before-seen footage. Warren is in a time warp. You're watching AOPA Live This Week, the Director's Cut 2019.
The people of AOPA's Legal Services Plan work to help protect your certificates, and they love to fly as much as you do. The AOPA Legal Services Plan is offered as part of our Pilot Protection Services. It's a members-only benefit provided to thousands of pilots like you.
Welcome back to our look back on our favorite stories of 2019. This year is the 75th anniversary of D-Day, and we were honored to do many stories with the D-Day squadron as they prepared to fly over to England and France to participate in the commemoration. They even dropped into our fly-in at our Frederick, Maryland headquarters earlier this year. And for Tom and me, the highlight of our year was the opportunity to be on scene and report on this once-in-a-lifetime event. Here are a few excerpts. You stayed in England and flew with the DC-3 across the channel. What was that like?
It was incredible. I got to say, we came across with Miss Virginia, which she's owned by Dynamic Aviation down in Virginia. And beautiful airplane, incredibly restored in a U.S. Air Force paint scheme. And so it was really interesting to be aboard that airplane. She wasn't a D-Day veteran, but we did have several D-Day veterans in the fleet.
Oh, we did. In fact, the most famous one would have to be That's All Brother, who led the invasion 75 years ago and led the formation again today.
Yes.
We had a chance to fly on That's All Brother and had a chance to then fly in formation with another veteran of D-Day, D-Day Doll.
Right, we did, and that was incredible to get a chance to fly in That's All Brother. Doug Rosendahl from the Commemorative Air Force, which is the owner of the airplane, was piloting that day, and it was interesting to hear his thoughts where he talked about flying alongside the rivets and all the parts of this airplane that were with it June 6, 1944, when they made the original crossing 75 years ago. Pretty incredible.
And sitting in that aircraft, looking at those hard seat pans, I was imagining those 17, 18, 19-year-olds who were in that dark, drafty cabin, crossing in the early morning hours, jumping into what was literally hell.
Right. They didn't know what they were in for. It was dark. But the Pathfinders had been out ahead of them and were marking the jump zones. We, of course, told you about one of the Pathfinders, David Hamilton, a couple of weeks ago on our show. Well, we ran into him again here. He was in England yesterday, and he was drawing quite a crowd. He had folks coming up wanting him to sign things and getting pictures taken. It was fun to see him there.
He is one of our really amazing veterans, and there were some others too. There were at least three that I know of that jumped again with the paratroopers. Of course, they did tandem jumps with the modern chutes, but even so, 97, 98 years old and jumping again.
Yeah, pretty incredible. That's quite a feat.
And where I saw them land was outside Sunnerby, which was called Drop Zone K. And that's where they did the largest reenactment. And I'm telling you, we were standing there with a group of several thousand of our closest friends, waiting for it to come. And then off in the distance, you hear that distinctive rumble. And then we saw this formation of Dakotas come across. And then just one by one, they came out of the aircraft. These chutes spread out across the sky. It was impressive.
Right, I'm sure there was. I'm sorry to have missed that, but I got to say I had a great time. Really, thoughtful time coming over on the DC-3. And one of the incredible things we saw was all the people stopped along the highways, both in England and France. The route had been published, so people knew where to go. And all along the highways, cars were stopped. People were out of their cars, gawking up at the sights of these 21 DC-3s coming across the channel, a sight and a sound that probably hasn't been heard since the war. It was pretty incredible.
And I have to tell you guys, it was incredibly moving to be there at the seminary on Utah Beach. And the other thing that was just so amazing to me was that the honor that the French citizens of Normandy still pay to Americans. I mean, the signs are everywhere. French citizens even adopt the graves of Americans there in the cemetery and maintain them year-round, put everything. It was something very special.
It was a moment where the whole world was coming together to fight for what's right, and a lot of people, American and otherwise, gave their lives that day.
Yeah, it was something we're not likely to see repeated in our lifetimes.
God forbid. Well, aviation is a community, and we are so very glad that you're a part of it with us. And community is really highlighted when people get together and do fun fly-ins. I went out to my favorite place on the planet, a little biased towards it, with some of my favorite people to an event called the High Sierra Fly-In. How do you tell the story of High Sierra Fly-In another time? It's hard to put into words because everything is so familiar and yet all brand new. It's bigger, better, more airplanes this year, more people, more fun.
Oh man, it's aviation celebration like no other. Here we are here at Dead Cow Lake Bed.
It's not just a fly-in, it's a family, an intentional community that forms once a year way out in the desert, facing down terrain, distance, elements, and mechanical problems.
Somebody help me fall. I don't feel right.
Defying gravity, nature, comfort, and convenience to live bolder than all others, way out at Dead Cow.
To get back home.
Sophie Hoyt defied a car that broke down on the way from Portland. She rented another and got there just in time.
I've seen so many videos about it and stuff, I kind of thought I had an idea of what to expect, but it's just so different being here and actually feeling it and experiencing it. It's really cool.
Stoll Drag is the big event, and this year it's an incredible competition yet again.
3, 2, 1, see ya.
All right, everything is on the line. This is it. This is as good as it gets.
Toby Ashley has been working hard the last few years, but always coming up just short of the top spot.
I think Toby held it in the power cycle about 2 seconds longer than Steve. Steve's on the ground sooner. So that means Toby might have a little bit of excess speed he has to dissipate with his brakes. Oh my gosh, that turn is ridiculously evenly matched. Here we go. Let's listen to their engines.
Toby's known for his aggressive slips and his OD green airplane named Sarge.
All right, Steve once again in the slip. Toby Ashley bringing it in. Here we go. This is it. Who's going to stop first? It's a clean race. Here we go. I can't believe it. It's a heartbreaker, or is it a backbreaker? It's Toby Ashley. Ladies and gentlemen, your world champion, Stoll Drag High Sierra Fly-In 2019. Oh my gosh. Wow.
But this is Toby's year, earning the Stoll Drag champion title in his highly customized Carbon Cup. It's great to see someone's hard work pay off and get celebrated at the fire.
World Championship Stoll Drag High Sierra. Toby's taking home the Toby! Scotty Boulder put the belt on him. Toby Ashley, don't tip that cup over because there's $1,000 in that cup.
This is Friday night, a day sooner than the finals had been planned. The winds on Saturday were forecast to not be any fun at all, and that outlook verified. Not a whole lot of flying going on Saturday, so we mostly just hung out. I walked over to see one of 2 Antonov AN-2s on the playa. Josh Watson and his boy Colton are happy to talk about it.
I've been in aviation for a long time, and it's awesome to be able to take something like this out to places you wouldn't expect to see them. Anytime we can get in it and fly it, we try to do that.
Yeah, it's just always such a really cool experience. I've seen a lot of cool airplanes out here,
and 2A and 2's in one spot. I never thought I'd see that, but you come to places like these, and that's where you see cool stuff like that.
Parked just one spot down, a Pilatus PC-24. People braving the wind for a selfie with this turbine terror of the tundra. But being together is what this is all about. Folks gather from all over the world to fly, play, and visit with one another, in spite of the weather.
So it's Sunday morning of High Sierra. Everyone's about to get up. We'll get to that in just a second. But it's beautiful out here. The sun's not even up above the ridge. People are warming themselves by the fire. A couple of early birds are getting up to leave before the mass departure. But everyone else is about to wake up.
This is the High Sierra Fly-In Skywagon Wake-Up Call service. Flight of 2. It's time to get up anyway.
Somebody help me find a way to get back home.
Hundreds of airplanes, thousands of people, and it's all put together by Kevin Quinn and his wife Jessica. But all the work and risk is worth the reward.
Sunday morning, people are leaving, and I'm overwhelmed with joy, enthusiasm, excitement for the future. I'm humbled.
One by one, folks file out until it's time for the Antonovs to leave. It takes 5 minutes for the wake turbulence to clear behind them, so they wait until everyone else has had a chance. These big rare birds, both departing for home and leaving it.
It's the people. It's just that you're walking down the road and you run into one person that you've met somewhere else, like Florida or, Wisconsin, and then you run into somebody from Alaska. It's really cool. It's like the community is awesome.
Somebody help me find a way to get back home.
On the Dead Cow Lake bed near Flanagan, Nevada, Paul Harrop, AOPA Live.
All right, so have you gotten the dust out of your equipment yet?
The equipment, yeah, because it was so funny. We go to the desert to cover this event, and the very next day I had to go to Las Vegas to cover the National Business Aviation Association show. So I had suits in a garbage bag inside my rental truck, and the first thing I did was get there and get the dust off of me. Shout out to Truck Stop Showers. And then I probably spent 4 hours in the hotel room just getting dust out of everything. That playa dust really gets with you. But it's a fun reminder. It's really one of the best fly-ins. I'd encourage anybody that has an interest to get out there some year. But yeah, don't expect to stay clean.
The community out there seems pretty amazing, despite the dust.
It's like an intentional community. People come together. We form this little city. And, as a journalist, you're there to cover it. But you can't help but feel a part of it because it really touches on the sense of belonging that aviation draws a lot of people in with. So.
Yeah, well, it really is in a microcosm what aviation is.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, that's our recap of the best from the past year, and we're so thankful for you being a loyal viewer of AOPA Live this week.
AOPA Live this week is actually hitting a milestone with this edition. This is our 400th broadcast. And what a way we've come from the beginning. Many of you first joined us on May 10th, 2012 for the program As We Know It. But here's a clip that has never before been seen outside of AOPA. This is the proof of concept episode that Warren put together in 2005 that would later be developed into the show you see today.
Hi, and thanks for logging on. Feel our pain. Well, that's what AOPA told the FAA this week. And it's all about the ADIZ, the Air Defense Identification Zone, a 3,000 square nautical mile restricted zone that makes life miserable for us pilots and controllers around Washington, D.C. Now, AOPA this week asked the FAA for public meetings before they make the ADIZ permanent. In other words, listen to the folks who have to use it.
Well, a few things have changed. The graphics.
Yeah.
The production value.
You know,
I didn't say that. I didn't go anywhere near that. That's all you.
That was a bit embarrassing. But hey, the hair's still roughly the same color.
Oh, well, at least you still have hair.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed the episodes this year. We work hard on them, and your continued support makes it all worthwhile.
We'd like to ask a favor of you, though. Please like, subscribe, and leave us a comment on YouTube. That helps us share the love even further.
Now, we're going to take some much-needed time off and come back with a new episode on January 9th. Until then, for Josh Cochran and Paul Harrop, I'm Warren Morningstar. Happy holidays.
Hey, I'm going to interrupt the closing of the show real quick. It's Paul Harrop here in the edit bay, where we've realized we'd be remiss if we didn't include one more piece. After we taped the director's cut, we had the incredible opportunity to ride along with Colonel Charles McGee on his 100th birthday, and we wanted to share that with you. So check this out. You only live once, but if you're Colonel Charles McGee, you do it right. To celebrate his 100th birthday, dozens are gathered. But beyond the cameras is what he's really looking forward to, the left seat of a Cirrus SF-50 Vision jet.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're still flying here, doing your thing. As they say, your airplane. Your airplane, that's right.
Oh my, beautiful.
Bonnie Caldera with Cirrus Aircraft there to let this celebrated centenarian get back in touch with his high-flying history.
Tuskegee 1, maintain VFR at 5,500, clear to Class Bravo airspace, heading 100.
Not every flight McGee made was under such bright circumstances.
Part of the Army's program at that time was that they couldn't use a black pilot because they didn't have any black mechanics. So of the now called Tuskegee Airmen, the first were the mechanics that were put into training at Chanute Field, Rantoul, Illinois. That's 14 miles away from the university. Yep. And of course we learned there's something going on up there. The Army expected them to fail.
But they didn't fail. The Red Tails became known far and wide to bomber crews. They were legendary in keeping the vulnerable aircraft safe from German fighters. But today, things are a bit different. Instead of a P-51, it's a Vision jet. Instead of diving in on Messerschmitts, the Colonel is flying to Dover Air Force Base, where he's greeted with a hero's welcome. And likewise, back at Frederick.
Beautiful, smooth, wonderful, great day of visibility. And folks, quite a country we're flying over.
Okay. He flew us. I was basically there as a co-pilot to talk to air traffic control. He taxied us out, flew us to Dover, landed the plane, taxied us in, coming back here, same thing. It was just an honor.
Inside, a party. Honor Guard and dignitaries, and a young man inspired by the Tuskegee Airmen, writing a moving essay about the Colonel.
As a young black male, learning about how the Tuskegee Airmen overcame the challenges of segregation and discrimination in the Air Force is inspirational to me.
When Colonel McGee was a pilot, it wasn't normal for black people to be in the Air Force, and he had to deal with segregation and discrimination, and through that he overcame it and became a hero.
This young man, able to pursue his dreams of flight thanks to the Colonel and other Tuskegee Airmen. And an old man, gunner on B-24s, able to be here today because of the same men.
I could always count on the Red Tails being out there to chase those German Messerschmitts away and get them and bring them down. They were good.
But Colonel McGee isn't here to bask in any glory. He just wants to make sure the generations that follow are on better footing.
To see so many people come out and share in my bit of past history, if you will, as we look back on the years, but to share in this day and what it means has been very fruitful indeed, very rewarding. I'm indeed impressed.
You know, he's deserving of all the recognition that he gets. He's, as I tell people, with all the accomplishments, he's still a very humble guy.
Vince Mickens organized the festivities, and they didn't stop on the first day. The next morning, another flight. This time with reenactors on hand for a salute.
Ready? 2.
AOPA President Mark Baker there to co-pilot for the Colonel in a Citation M2.
Yeah, the model they call it is a 525.
As with the Cirrus the day before, Colonel McGee doing all phases of the flight with very little help.
He's got it. He sure enjoys flying. He's in charge, by the way. Don't think twice. He's running that airplane.
At 100, he's still a heck of a stick and as sharp as can be.
Thank you.
Well said. I have one more thing for you. What were you guys talking about while you were flying?
Oops. Sorry. Wrong subject.
It's between the Colonel and his co-pilot.
Very good.
Paul Harrop, AOPA Live. Thanks for letting me interrupt the closing of the show to include Colonel McGee in there. An incredible icon, and we're just so delighted to be able to tell his story. Now we conclude with the conclusion of the director's cut. Thanks again for watching.